You start to realize how much ageism has affected our psyche and how pissed off we all are because we're not allowed to be sexy over 40, right? So I just sort of leaned into that because that's what I was already doing and saying it's okay, and I'll take my shirt off at 55 years old. And these women blew me up, and I had like almost 1 million followers on that. So then it became a big side hustle. Then I started getting agents.
You're listening to A Life Creative, real conversations with artists, designers, and other creatives about how they build, sustain, and evolve their careers. From Alabama to Broadway, Jim Newman has built a career that spans stage, touring shows, and television, from Tommy to Sunset Boulevard, Steel Pier, The Village People, and now Mamma Mia, currently playing on Broadway in New York City. His path is full of determination, creativity, and reinvention, with a talent for connecting with audiences on stage and online. I'm happy to welcome my friend Jim on the show today. Jim, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here today.
Yeah, me too.
Well, we've known each other. I think we met in Asbury Park, New Jersey. You were also a pioneer, well, in the beginning where you had a house.
2000?
Yeah.
Year 2000?
I think so.
Like that? Yeah.
I actually have pictures of you helping us put down a slate patio.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In sort of the very beginning.
I borrowed your tile cutter when I bought my house, actually, for real.
How long did you have that house?
About 3 years, just under 3 years.
All right. Well, it's completely changed now.
Yeah.
And it's been, but there was a lot of people that we met there that were actually great, have become great friends. There's a real community there, right?
Definitely a community.
Because I really admire your career. When I first moved to New York City, I just remember we had friends who wanted to become actors or part of theater. And you'd go to these really tiny venues with like 10 chairs. You'd sit there, watch your friends up on stage and trying to figure out what to say after the show. And I know there's a whole joke thing about like, what do you say? And it's like, you
were up there doing your thing.
You sang.
It's so good to see you do your thing.
But you stuck with this, and it's also you've transitioned from an entire career in New York City. So, but I want to go up. I want to start from your upbringing. Okay. So you originally from
Center Point, Alabama, tiny town outside of Birmingham. Yeah.
And were you always creative as far as the arts, the performing arts?
I don't know if I was performing arts, but I definitely was the kid drawing pictures in the corner. So I definitely was creative. I like to sing because my dad sang, but we were all singing songs to the radio, my sisters and my brothers. So every little kid wants to be a singing star. I didn't know about theater necessarily, except for like my dad had a couple of cast albums that I would listen to, but they were like stories.
Yeah. What number are you in the?
I'm the youngest of four.
Yeah. Did that make a difference?
Two working parents. It definitely did.
Yeah.
It made a difference in the sense that when it did happen, like in 7th grade, which is sort of when I started, I tried out for the basketball team. Yeah. I was short, late bloomer, really high voice. Didn't make the team. So they put me in choir as my elective, which was choral music. I didn't like it, but the teacher heard me singing. And they were doing the spring musical, Annie, Get Your Gun, and they needed someone to play her little brother. And because I was tiny with a little high voice, she's like, you should try out for the play. I tried out for the play, and I loved it. Besides it just being fun, I got a lot of attention, And that thing about the youngest being spoiled, not when you have two working parents. You were like, like I didn't even, our last family photo I wasn't even in, and my brother used to say I was adopted, And
oh my God, I'm the youngest too, and there are no pictures really of me. I think by the time they get to the third kid, it's just like, he kind of did it.
Yeah, we got the baby pictures.
It's like you don't get a photo book.
Yeah, right. So that everything about it I loved. I love the creativity. I love the camaraderie of it. People who are feeling a little bit different and finding each other.
Sort of band camp.
Yeah, exactly. It was like and all the things that my family would tell me to stop singing, shut up.
Right.
But they were like, sing more,
So you had this, you had this taste of it,
yeah.
And so then what did you do after that? Like you just like, oh my God, it really has bitten me, and I want to do this, even as a kid.
Well, I think the teacher was hugely instrumental, and not in saying you could do this for a living, but just showing me where this can take you. Like we took trips to New York on field trips.
Do you remember their name?
Marcia Wright. Oh, She's amazing. I remember what's great about that is we did like a New York medley, like Liza Minnelli New York medley. And so when I worked with Liza on Broadway, and we had a duet. She came and brought all her students, and I dedicated the show to her. So I actually got to sort of pay her back for all she had, because I don't think she knew how much she'd given me, because home life wasn't so good, and parents divorced, mom alcoholic.
Yeah.
So it became a refuse for me. Yeah, not refuge. Became a refuge for me, that world in the theater. And she was so supportive. And I think I didn't think it was a dream for a living, but she showed me that you can actually make a living doing this.
So did you do the traditional talent show thing? Like, did you?
I did. In the 8th grade, my girlfriend played the electric keyboard, and I sang Ben, that Michael Jackson song from the movie about the rat, and we got 2nd place. So I did do that. But, I was in the Deep South, so it was all about sports. So you're not going to get a lot of accolades for being in the arts.
Right.
You're going to get pushed into lockers, and that was sort of my... But by my senior year, I think everyone was just like, that's Jim's lane. And everyone left me alone, starting around the 9th.
But you were doing this professionally while you were still in school, right?
Sort of. I did one play at age 16 where it was a children's theater, but it was professional. And
this is like a summer thing?
No, it was during school. I missed 6 weeks of school, and I got to do all my work at home.
Your parents were just like, sure, do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
they were
the
like,
youngest.
if you can get a ride there.
We're done.
My mother was like, you can ride in with me, and then I don't know how you're going to get a ride home. So I would just hang out with the woman. I usually just hang out at the wardrobe woman's house.
It's like a recipe for like an after-school special. Jim in your portrait of a teenage actor.
You don't even know. It definitely was that. Well, we don't talk about that on this. That's a different podcast.
So professionally, then, did you ever have to train for voice and like dance? So you did all that.
I did all that. I went to college on scholarship for it. For my major was split between music and theater. And
where did you go to school?
I went to school at Birmingham Southern, which was a really great school in the South that it's not even there now, but it was a really good and very expensive school. And I had done summer stock, and I was going to go to a Big Ten, Auburn, which is a big football school, engineering school. And they were like, you need to be at this school. I'm like, I can't afford that,
Right.
And so my friend Adelia, I got 2 scholarships, one from the local theater, one from the college, but it still wasn't enough. And my friend Adelia Patrick took me into the financial aid. She goes, hey guys, this is my friend Jim. He's coming to school here in the fall, so we got to find him some money. And apparently there's all these really sweet women whose husbands died or who loved the arts, and they would give this money as scholarships, need-based
but you didn't have
scholarships.
To audition, and you'd have to prove that you had talent.
Not on those.
Not on
these particular. These were grants, so they weren't like scholarships. And so they got me into that school, and so I have to say I was so far ahead of the game when I moved to New York, because I remember going to one of my early auditions, and I had a headshot, I had a resume, I had music in my key, all these things that you don't think about. And I was sitting in the audition. I remember the guy in front of me got in, and he didn't have a headshot, and I was like, what is... And he just went in. I guess he told him their name, and then I heard he didn't have music for a song, so then I just heard this. She was more like a beauty queen of a movie scene. And he just started singing Michael Jackson while he clapped, and I was like, how did he not know that you need music? Where did this guy come from? But you have to be taught that, right? And I was taught that. So when I got to New York, I was actually way ahead of the game.
Like you knew exactly what to do.
I knew what to sing. I had music in my key. I had a headshot. I had a resume. I didn't have any summer stock credits, but and that one professional, children's theater. But at least I knew what I was doing.
Yes.
So it helped. It helped a lot.
Did you have a song back then that you loved? You said that one song.
I used to
always.
I used to sing. Pop music was becoming the thing on Broadway, so I used to sing "She's Got Away" by Billy Joel. I used to sing. That was my ballad. That was my pop ballad.
Your pop ballad. I love that. So then you actually, after school, you said in an earlier call, that you got a gig on a cruise ship.
Yeah, that was right after college. I actually moved to New York. I had a sublet from a guy that I'd met who was the big star who came down to do the star of this summer stock. And he let me sublet his place for 3 months. And I had 2 things that happened. I'd auditioned for Days of Our Lives, and I got a call back. And then I got another call back. And then the last step,
did you know what the part was on Days of Our Lives? Yeah,
it was like this. He was like this edgy, kind of troubled teen from the South. You know? I mean, it was musical. I was a music theater version, but I looked the part. And then I never heard from him. So then I auditioned for this cruise ship. I got the cruise ship. I went down. We were sailing out of Miami. I was tan, and I think I was putting lemon juice in my hair. It was the thing people did to lighten their hair. And then all of a sudden, I got to go to producer's final screen test for the part. And when I went back, I I looked like a completely different person. So I didn't get the part because I didn't look like this rough, edgy kid. And the guy who got it was, what was his name? Not Jason Priestley, but the guy from 90210, the one who passed away, sadly.
Oh,
he was the dark and brooding one.
What's his name? It'll come to us.
Yeah, that guy. Anyway. This is what happens when you're 60.
So is cruise ship performing sort of a step for a lot of actors?
In those days, it definitely was. People would either work at a theme park like Opryland or Disney World, and then they'd go to New York because it gives you training, everyday performance training. It gives you stamina. You train your voice. And cruise ship was the same thing. We did 2 shows a night.
2 shows a night.
But they were only like 45-minute shows.
Okay.
There was a Gershwin review, and then the other one was a speakeasy review.
Okay. Usually a review.
You know, and it's mostly the husbands are gambling and the wives are down there drinking, watching us.
Watching a review.
Yeah.
So when you first started, you know, we talked about this earlier about being a triple threat of somebody who can dance, sing, and act. Is it a standard to be that way when you start auditioning on Broadway?
When the business had changed. You know, in the old days, they would have a dancing chorus and a singing chorus and the actors, but that changed because of financial reasons. You know, you had to be able to do it all. They needed dancers who could sing. And if you could, like if you had acting abilities like me, and this was a very common way to get into the business, they would hire you because you could dance and be in the ensemble, but you would cover one of the leads, like an understudy for the lead, and be in the show. Right. And that's how I got my first show, Tommy.
And so do you think that a lot of casts start getting smaller, you know, because of that?
Yes, much smaller. And also they just became too expensive. And now, you know, now they're playing instruments in the shows, you know, so it's getting even smaller. You know?
Well, one weekend, I remember we were in Asbury and you were visiting. I think it was my best friend's birthday. And we were sitting around. And then my best friend Darren says, "Oh, Jim, show Mel the video of that kid, this video." And you go onto YouTube and I'm watching it. It is so 80s. It's like like big hair, you know,
feathers.
Love wings, your hair, hope you win kind of idea. And it's just everything's rocking on. It's very Doogie from, you know, Pretty in Pink kind of stuff. And it's this whole music video. It's kind of a children's show. And I'm watching it and I'm saying, "Jim, you know, this guy could be your brother." And then you just
I don't know how you saw that because I was totally different looking.
And then you're like, you both started laughing, and then you later told me that it was you. And you got to tell this story of what this is because it's crazy.
So I was 21, about to turn 22, moved to New York, and the Backstage paper was a newspaper that people would get through auditions who didn't have agents yet. Right. And there was an ad in there that said, "Looking for all-American heartthrob who can sing and dance his heart out to rock America for big bucks."
That isn't tan.
Right, you know, and that was the ad, which, you know, sounds completely suspicious. It sounds like child trafficking ad, you know, like really meet me in a hotel room. And so I was like, no. And he's like, "What do you got to lose?" And at that point, I really didn't have anything to lose. So I went in and I sang for them and danced a little. And then they called me back, and then they called me back again. And then they had a last interview with them, you know, and then I booked it, and it was a real thing. Procter & Gamble had put in the money, you know, because their idea was to create a pop star, and then they would own a piece of him. So when he endorsed one of their products in a commercial, they wouldn't have to pay him, you know, $1 million. Like
that sounds very sound.
Right, you know. So I was signed to A&M Records by Larry Lasgar, who signed Debbie Gibson to be like the male Debbie Gibson. The problem was, since Procter & Gamble had put their money in, when we shot the video, they thought they were being subliminal messages because I was going to endorse super cool gel for kids, this gel toothpaste. And there's like
the whole video was actually, I can't remember now. It was for gel toothpaste.
No, it was not a commercial. It was just we did a remake of that game, but they thought they were going to put some subliminal images in, but they were so overt. Right. Like I'm a substitute teacher in the beginning in class of 13-year-olds, and I opened my briefcase, and instead of writing on the board with chalk, I open up a pump of gel. It doesn't say Crest. It's just random, and I just start writing on the board with animated gel. So when they sent the video to MTV, they were like, "What the hell is this? No, we're not showing that." So it only aired on like Nickelodeon and Disney Channel and all the kids channels.
But this was supposed to be you were going to be the next Debbie Gibson.
When it hit because that video was everywhere, and I was in all those teen magazines, Super Teen and Wow. And I was like, "This is it." But eventually just sort of faded out after a year and a half.
Did you have fans? Did you have like young...
Well, you know, this is before the internet, so they didn't really even know where to send it.
I kind of remember Tiger Beat. My sister used to get it, you know, like Leif Garrett, you know, or Willie Ames was on there, right?
I have them somewhere. I should see who was big. I think Kirk Cameron was
Kirk Cameron,
was big then,
probably during that time.
I think we had the same haircut, actually. I'm not even kidding.
As an actor in New York, you did pay your dues. You had to work so you can audition.
Yeah. I waited tables like most actors, yeah. I actually didn't mind it. I think I knew it was just a means to an end. It wasn't like a career, so it didn't like beat the love out of me of New York City. Mm-hmm. I was super friendly. Mm-hmm. And whenever that got really busy, I would just crank up that Southern accent because it really disarms the New York. Hey y'all, I'm so sorry. We're so busy tonight. If y'all could just be patient with me, I'll try to give you the best service. And I'm not kidding, it worked. I know it's cheesy, but it totally worked. Except one time I remember this, I brought this table of women. They're so sweet. And one woman called me over and she goes, I'm so sorry, this coffee's cold. And I stuck my finger in her coffee and was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Not even thinking that was wrong. And got her in a fresh cup. And she called my manager. She goes, do not fire him. He's really sweet, but he shouldn't stick his finger in the coffee in front of him. So I wasn't great at it. But I didn't mind it. I'm still friends with some of those people those people I waited tables with.
And we talked about earlier about auditions in general. You know how different they are by today's standards. Back then, you brought your music.
Yes.
You went on stage, like the classic thing, right?
Yes, you wait in line outside and they call your number and you sign up at 8 a.m. in the morning at the Union station.
And today?
Today it's all online.
It's all online.
You self-tape. So there's websites and you film it yourself in your house. You have to find some kind of backdrop that's bland and they give you the script and sometimes they give you the song to sing and you sing it and you send it in and you don't.
How long are these things? Ticket. Like how long are they?
It depends. Usually they try to keep it under like 5-minute audition,
Okay.
Part of a song and then 2 scenes. It depends. Bernie Telsey will have like 12 scenes.
Do they ever tell you to pick your own stuff? No.
Sometimes they'll ask a song of your own choice. Not you don't ask for a monologue or anything like that. But
are you like? I have this song that when I was supposed to be Debbie Gibson that I'd like to.
I'll be singing the name game. Yes. No, the weird part is before all this happened, you would go to the casting director, mm-hmm. and sometimes the director would be there, or the casting director, and they could give you adjustments, and they could see that you knew how to take direction. Now, as for actors, which is part of your training, you don't get to show that. You just have to make a choice, and they like it or they don't like it, and that's unfortunate for me. But the other part, the good part is you're doing it at home, so you're not nearly as nervous on camera.
Oh, that's true. There's no audience. There's no.
Yeah.
Okay. During this time, you're waiting tables, you're auditioning, and then do you have to get your practice in on what you do? Do you have to take classes? Do you have to take dance?
We were all taking steps, dance, ballet, because ballet was the foundation. Even though I was never going to be a ballet dancer, my feet are like biscuits; they don't point very well.
That's a good look.
But what I did learn in college was how to pick up a combination. Where they would teach the dance.
Which I find I think when you see that on like YouTube or on TikTok, it looks so stressful because they'll just say the thing you're supposed to be doing, and I'm like, holy crap, I would be horrible at that.
They don't have time because there's all these people, and then they have to break them down in groups of 3, and then you have to perform it in front of these people.
But it's the terms, right?
Yeah.
Like pirouette.
Yeah. Well, you know those. If you don't know those by the time you get to New York, you shouldn't be in a dance call because those are basic, and most of them come from ballet. So I studied ballet and I studied jazz, and I had a voice teacher and I had an acting teacher. And I did that even when I was working professionally.
But then when you get these auditions, like you just said, you don't go for the dance audition. Like it's specific, right? Like when the calls get sent out, we're like, we only want dancers, we only want whatever, or is it just everybody's in there?
If it's a musical, you're going to have to stay and sing. If they maybe do a dance call first, and if they like your dancing, they'll make a cut and then tell some people to stay, go outside, and we'll have you sing a song for us.
Right.
And if they like your singing, then they'll ask you to read if they think you could cover one of the leads part, which was my into Broadway.
And so with being off Broadway or on Broadway, we were talking about this. Tell us the difference between the two.
Well, the theater size is how they're delineated, but for actors, it's the pay. I remember
it's just like off Broadway.
I was doing a
play.
So
off, you're in Poughkeepsie.
Well, even in good, like I was doing a play at the Public, which is probably the most reputable. I remember, and my roommate was on unemployment, and after taxes, he was making more than I was, and I was working at the Public Theater, which is one of the best places to work.
It's just part of it.
But it's just off Broadway. The theaters sizes are smaller, so they don't make as much money, and they can't pay the actors as much.
Yeah, and then explain the union card, because I think for a young actor, coming into the city, that is so important. But also for other production, for set designers.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend the other day about getting a temp card, because it's so unioned. How do you get the card?
Well, when I was coming up, it was sort of a catch-22 situation. You had to get cast in a union show, but a lot of times they wouldn't even see non-union actors. So you're like, how do I get cast if they won't even audition me? But in New York, sometimes you would wait at the end after they'd seen all the union people and the agent submissions, and they would maybe see some non-union people. Sometimes you'd wait all day and they'd say, sorry guys, we're not seeing any non-union. And you don't know till the end of the day. But, and so I remember I went for, it was actually an industrial, which was like, it's like a musical, but the whole story is written about McDonald's. It was from McDonald's, and they had like Paul Newman was in it, Liza Minnelli, like had huge stars in it, and it made a lot of money, and it was union. So I went to the open call, and I waited, and we had a dance combination, which I did well, and then we had to stay and read. I'd read a little script. I sang
that
for
you'd
them.
never seen before.
I sang, no, and it was like a Crocodile Dundee spoof, and so my hands were shaking so bad out in the hall when I was learning it. I just memorized it really quick, so they wouldn't see my hand shake.
How far in advance did you get this script?
I didn't, not
like
advanced.
5 minutes.
Like go outside and look at it in 10 minutes and come back. But it wasn't super, super long. It was just a little short monologue. But I just wanted to memorize it so that they couldn't see my hand shaking. I didn't want them to see how nervous I was, because the people that were at the audition, I'd seen them in Broadway shows. They were like divas. They were people I aspired to be. And I had imposter syndrome. I didn't feel like I belonged there. And so I read it, and they called me back the next day, and I was like, this is amazing. And then we had another dance call, and it was a tap dance. I'm not a tap dancer. Is it the one thing that you're sort of like, ugh? Yeah, it's not my thing. I didn't really study it, and I'm not really good at it.
Right.
And I was terrible. And so after that, they cut people, and
Did you know that you had to do a tap thing the next day?
I did not.
Oh my God.
No, I did because they told us to bring our tap shoes.
Okay,
but
and you had them.
I knew that was my death knell, right?
Yeah.
I had tap shoes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so I just remember we had the tap, and I was terrible. So then they called names out and to cut people.
Right.
And they didn't call my name out. But I thought it was because I was non-union and that my
Is this whole thing where they say stand forward, stand back?
Well, yeah, they did like a chorus line thing.
Like on Drag Race.
Yeah, so exactly, right? And they said if I call, and because actually the guy who was the choreographer, he was in a chorus line. Don is his story, so he was literally. And so they called, and there were all these Broadway people, and they said, if I call your name, please step forward. And I was like, oh, they forgot my picture. And so I was embarrassed to walk in front of everyone. So I had my backpack, and I was standing right by the door so that I wouldn't have to walk in front of everybody when I got cut. And they didn't call my name, and I was thinking, oh, they called my name, and I didn't go forward. I didn't step forward. So I thought, oh, okay, I'm going to walk out the back door. No one will see me. And they said, front line, thank you, that's all we need today. And I was like, oh,
is this like a Miss America moment?
And I was like
Miss America moment.
And I was in the
right
back
now?
line, and people in the back line were out really happy, and I was like, oh, they definitely didn't call my name because I was terrible in that. And then the choreographer came around and grabbed my shoulder, and she said, congratulations on your union card. And that's how I got mine.
Wow.
And I was in heaven.
And you were in heaven.
Yeah.
So that power that someone has to actually give a union card, it also comes with a cost, right? Like how much is a union card?
Well, it was $2,500 to join and that was, God, I don't even know what year. That was probably 1995. No, something like that,
And, but when you probably someone tells you have your union card, you're like, I don't care what it costs.
No, I don't. And also this job paid a lot because it was a 5-week, it was like 5 weeks, and we were making like a lot, like $1,700 a month back then, which is a ton of money, which is why all these Broadway people wanted the gig.
Well, then how did you navigate, when you get a show like that and, the paperwork? Do you have to do that all on your own? I mean, you had no rep or you had no agent at the time? No.
I didn't have an agent. No, I had no one at that time. So I was just going to open calls by Backstage Magazine,
Yeah.
And so you just have to figure it out. You ask people, who've been in it. Like because I got that show and they would help me. But it wasn't hard. Joining the union paperwork was not very hard.
So once you did that, did it just open up all the doors for you?
The reason you want to be in the union is because the pay scale goes up. You also get health insurance when you work for weeks, and it lets you in the door a lot quicker. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
And also they protect you because, that's why I have unions, right? Because the producers will try to work you overtime without paying you. Once you're in the union, none of that, all that goes away. You get breaks every hour. You get lunch hour,
If you work not as a non-union, you don't get those breaks.
They don't have to because there's no rules for non-union. Oh, wow. They can do whatever they want. You can say, we're going to call a 12-hour rehearsal and you don't get paid overtime or anything. It's
just
brutal.
Do it.
Yeah, it's brutal.
So what was your first Broadway show?
My first Broadway show was The Who's Tommy, that rock opera.
And then, that must be just so exciting all of a sudden, like all the years that you're doing this.
In the show I'm doing now, we had 25 Broadway debuts. And the thing about, that's your dream since you were 13. You'd go to the Broadway shows and wait at the stage door and get autographs signed, and you're like, I just want to be in a show. I just want to get that. You're not thinking career trajectory. You're just thinking that is my goal, and I just want to get that. So when you get your first Broadway show, it is a huge, like sort of an exhale. Like, okay, I'm the kid from Alabama who went and made it. Like I made it. Whatever happens after this, I got that dream. I don't know if you know the show, but he has sort of like a gang of friends, Tommy does. And so they called him the Louts. So I was one of the Louts, and then I covered Captain Walker. Understudied Captain Walker.
And when you actually cover somebody, you have to learn twice as many things and twice as many, all the dance,
and you have
everything.
rehearsals every Thursday for the understudy rehearsal,
Did you ever have to go on?
I never got to go on. And actually, when I...
Oh, that stinks.
It sucks because when we got closing notice... I went to the stage manager and I said, hey, I've been rehearsing for 9 months. I'd love to go on if it's okay with John McVeigh, who was playing the lead. And she's like, that's not my call. That's his, you can't take his show. So I went to him and I asked him, would it be okay? He's like, yeah, because he understudied Jean Valjean. He understood that on In Les Mis. And he's like, yeah, I have no problem with that. So I went back to her and I said, he said it's okay. And she's like, now you've put me in a really uncomfortable position. You've gone behind my back. And I was like,
you told me to.
I was like, I went to your front. What are you talking about? And then he did end up calling me sick and she didn't put me on. And everyone knew it was awful. It was just really an awful experience.
Oh, that's...
But, she's not in the business anymore. And look at me.
Yeah.
I'm not holding a grudge or anything. Completely behind me. I don't even remember her name.
Bitter. What's her name? I don't remember.
Karen, I don't remember. Actually, her name was Karen. That's ironic. I just realized that she was the first Karen.
So you're in New York, you're auditioning, and I remember you telling this at a dinner party or something about auditioning on Broadway, is that there are these generations of people that come to New York, you're all about the same age, and every audition is the same people going for the same parts because it's just that demographic.
Yes.
Is it hard? Is that really, really tough?
It's hard because you're so subjective. It's so subjective, right? Like I had an audition once that I killed it, went great, and I was surprised I didn't get it because I thought they liked me. And my friend who was in the casting department, she goes, it had nothing to do with you. You reminded one of the producers, you reminded her of her ex-husband, and she hated him. They had a bitter divorce, and so that's why I didn't get it. And I was like, that's not fair. She's like, you did great, So it's so subjective, but in our own minds, we're like, oh, it's because I didn't have a good enough voice, or I'm too skinny, or I don't have enough, whatever.
Do you remember the actors back then who you were always seeing in auditions?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, there were the people who got that break way before you, you know?
Yeah.
But, it's interesting because I can't remember his name actually, but he won a Tony for Damn Yankees.
Right.
And I replaced him. I've gotten 2 parts that he auditioned for. It turned around, and then I ended up getting. Of course, I didn't win a Tony, and my shows weren't as big a hit. But
you were younger, faster.
You saw him in the room. And we were the same age, and you were like, "Oh, he didn't book it. I booked it." And I was like, "Why didn't he get it?" And when I asked the director, like, "Yeah, no, we didn't really jibe with him." Right. So it is really subjective. But unfortunately, for
and you try to be as humble as possible.
For actors, though, we always internalize and think it's our fault.
Yes.
I remember my coping mechanism back in the time.
I was going to ask that. Is that rejection?
Yeah.
Dealing with rejection as part of your job. What is the coping mechanism?
It's different for everybody. And back then, especially if it was something I really wanted, I would just be so bummed out. I'd just go buy like some sneakers or a shirt or something. Now it's changed. Now if I'm good in the room, that's enough for me because I know the rest. I'm older and I know
you're comfortable for yourself.
And rest is out of my hands.
Yeah.
But if I'm good in the room, I feel okay about it. So that's really more. I focus less on like got to get that part, and just I feel like I did a good audition. I can be okay with
The
that.
video auditions, though, you do eventually have to come in if it gets narrowed down to how many, 5?
That's like the first screening process.
Okay,
and
okay.
then they bring you in. Like for Mamma Mia, I went in 3 times.
Okay.
For that, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to read off these shows that you've been in: Sunset Boulevard, Steel Pier with Kristen Chenoweth, who was a friend.
She was
Kiss Me,
played
Kate.
my wife. It was her
your
first
wife,
Broadway show. Yeah.
And her first Broadway show, too. Kiss Me, Kate in 2001. And you also did Big on the Road. Was that your first time going on a road show?
Yeah. No, I did Joseph in the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat with Donny Osmond right after Tommy closed.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
What was that like?
He's the sweetest, just the greatest guy. Honestly, he was really, really. I remember I went into his dressing room one day because I didn't know what Mormonism. I didn't know that much about it. I grew up, Baptist and Methodist, and he was really, really cool about explaining. He's obviously a very, very progressive Mormon, and he honestly is just the greatest guy.
So then, what is the biggest difference between an on-road, show and because you've done several, then when you're in New York doing those 2 shows, is it grueling?
It's grueling because most of the time you're traveling every week, so your off day is a travel day, so you don't really feel like you have a travel day.
Yeah,
and
I follow on social media, and sometimes like your post, like, okay, here I am.
Yeah, flight delayed. Yeah, sitting at the airport. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that. The positive is the money is much better. Like a lot of actors go on the road if they want to buy a house.
So there's a security thing.
Yeah, because not only you're getting your salary, especially if you're subletting your place in New York, they pay for your meals and they pay for your housing.
Right.
So your check is just banked.
Where do you normally stay? Like all together, or
they give you options. They either find housing like in a hotel. They try to get places that have like little kitchenettes, like homestead suites or things like that.
Right. Summerfield.
A residence.
I've been in those.
Or you can take the money that it would cost to buy that and get your own. Now it's different because Airbnb is.
And
you can go ahead and look
and share.
And people can share. I didn't share, but I was too old to share. Once you get 30,
you get to a point.
I need my own bathroom.
No, I want my own fridge. And my own bathroom and my own closet.
And someone not up on my business or snoring in a bed next to me,
You eventually met Liza Minnelli, and you have to tell this story because I think I really love it.
I think this may be my favorite of my New York stories, to be honest, because it is so random and it's so stories in the business like this. So I was doing this play off Broadway. It was called Both Barrels. No one had ever heard of the composer. And we ran maybe 6 months. I'm not even sure. It was not long. And it was 3 guys, 2 girls, a tiny cast in the East Village. And one day after the show, the stage manager said, Jim, Liza Minnelli's here waiting for you in a limo. And of course, I thought he was kidding. Like, why would she be at this show? There was no stars. There was no huge press around it. And so I took my time getting ready. And then he came back. He's like, what are you doing? I was like, what do you mean? He was like, she was at the show. She wants to see you. And I'm like, what? And he was like, yes, she's. And so I.
You didn't know her?
No, never met her in my life. Well, I met her in Orlando, Florida, high school. We were doing a choral competition when I was, 15, and she was at the pool, and we all went like, Liza, and she was like, holy Toledo,
Leave me alone.
Get away from me. So I open the stage door, and there's a black limo there, and the door opens, and it's Liza, and she's like, Jimmy, come here, I'm going to take you to dinner.
Wait, she called you by your first name?
She called me Jimmy. She had already had a nickname for me, because it said Jim Newman in the playbill, so she just, Jimmy. So she took me to Joe Allen's, which is this very theater place, and she told me she was doing a review of her dad's movies called Minnelli Minnelli at the Palace next year, and she wants me to be in it.
Walking into Joe Allen's with Liza Minnelli, every head is probably turning.
I mean, the whole thing was like just sitting in the back of the limo with Liza, and
not a drag queen impersonating her.
No,
that's what I would be thinking. Like, when's the joke going to end?
I was like,
when is this guy going to pull his wig off?
And so she was just telling me about it, and then a year later, we're at the Palace. And by that time, we'd been hanging out a little bit that summer, and she was calling me her boy toy. There was nothing physical. Well, there was nothing physical at all except for New Year's at her house when she started making out with me when struck New Year's. I thought it was just going to be like a kiss, and she's like, I was like, oh, okay, I'm making out with Liza again.
And then you just ran with it.
But the great thing about working with her, first of all, she's just, everyone who works with her loves her because she wears her heart on her sleeve, so she may be a little bit needy like a lot of actors, but she's so game. Like with the crew, she creates a family, she's great. But she's so famous that after the show, like in the green room would be, like Florence Henderson from Brady Bunch and Molly Shannon.
I love that.
And people like that. And then Liza would knock on my dressing room door and go, Jimmy, there's someone I want you to meet. And you'd go to her dressing room, open the door, and it'd be like Gregory Peck standing there with a cane, or Debbie Reynolds, like just legends.
Like the senior legends.
Yeah, and it was just the craziest. And opening night, I fell. I actually slipped in her sweat and fell on stage of the number. It was a big fall.
She was
dramatic.
Wait, you said sweat?
Yeah, I just slipped. But it was it was opening night of the show, and there was all these famous people, and it was crushing. So when I came out from my bow, I just did a pratfall to be like, I'm funny. And the next day, Rosie O'Donnell was a big show. Right. Rosie O'Donnell was talking about, she was at the show, and she talked about this one dancer who fell. And she was like, you never see dancers fall on Broadway. And and then her first guest came out, and they started making fun of me and singing clang, clang, clang with the trolley and falling. And my phone started ringing like, please tell me that wasn't you. And I was like, it was me. But the best thing about that, when Liza was on the show, Rosie had me come, and I was going to wave from the audience as that falling boy, because they started calling me falling boy, and she canceled her last guest and brought me down for an interview. So you can see it on YouTube. It's
all right. We'll put that link on our. We have this website that's coincided
so it ended up being the best thing, and I had some very Rob Marshall, who directed Chicago the movie and a bunch of movies. He was there that night. He was like, the only people who fall on Broadway are the people who give 100% every night.
Yeah. And
he said that to me. I was like, oh, I've kept that, and it's sort of true. Like, you're not going to fall if you're not giving it everything. That's
so sort of lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, it was definitely lemonade out of lemons for sure. Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit about. I asked you, is it easier to be a gay actor on Broadway rather than Hollywood in general? And so it's changed a lot in I don't know, the last decade, probably, right?
It's changed, and it hasn't. Yeah. Because there's still, you can come out and still have a career. But I don't know if you notice, a lot of the ones that come out, they start playing a lot of gay parts. Part of it's because they want to, but part of that's probably the parts they're getting sent. I think. And I know that when I was 33, I think, and I'd just gotten big, and I was the star of the show. I'd already done the show with Kristen. We played husband and wife, and my career completely changed. I got new big agents. And Kristen had written a book, and she sort of outed me in the book. Not intentionally. She was like, if Jim Newman weren't gay, we'd be married today, or something like that in her book. It was sweet. But she didn't know I was in the closet professionally, because my friends knew that I was. I think it's that. No, I was not bi anymore. I had a off-ramp to Gay Street from 28 to 31.
Was that after the Liza kiss? She turned you gay.
I was totally straight till Liza made out with me. And then there's something about her saliva. It just changes your DNA. But so I was the star of the show, and I just thought it was so hard to pretend in interviews and because they're going to ask you questions. You have family or your kids, and you're dodging questions, and it was just exhausting. And I was in a relationship, and it just didn't feel good. So I just sort of came out in a press thing, and then of course I had some casting directors.
Oh, you had a whole press thing.
They were asking me questions, and I just answered honestly because
was it crickets, or was it sort of just like, oh, okay?
They didn't. It was just a one-on-one interview, so it came out, and then I started hearing some friends, and then a couple of casting directors had said, and oddly, they were a couple of. They're not longer with us, so I can say this, but they were sort of closeted gay men who said, "You're gonna kill the fantasy because you're a leading man, and it's going to ruin it and it's going to hurt your career." And I think it did for a little bit, but it's definitely worth the trade-off because I know people who are still in the closet because for their career, but their relationships, they don't get to have them really.
No.
Or their boyfriend has to be like their roommate, and they're in their 40s, and you're like, I didn't want to live like that. It just wasn't worth it to me. And also, I just felt like it was too exhausting. Mm-hmm. And also, when you internalize that, it comes out in other ways that are not healthy. It really does. And so, I just sort of
be who you are.
And I'm sure it changed some parts that I didn't get, but I think in musical theater, it's a little bit easier. Film and television. I mean, I did a part on All My Children for a while, and I was in the closet. I don't know if I would have gotten that part if I had been out, to be honest.
Right. So one question I've always wanted to ask is, what do you do when you forget your lines?
This happened to me recently.
Recently?
Badly. In Mamma Mia. And I'd gone on vacation, but I'd been in the show for 6 months, so I thought I could come back. It would come back, and I enter with the dads, and my character's name is Bill Austin. And the last show I had done on Broadway I played a character named Bill Calhoun in Kiss Me Kate, and that was like 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
And so I had the young Sophie comes out, and she goes, "Hi, how can I help you?" And I looked at her and I said, I couldn't remember my line, and I was like, "No." Which is like the worst thing to do. You're supposed to say yes, and she was trying to, and she was like,
"Are you sure?"
Bill Austin. She was like, Bill Austin? I was like, Bill Calhoun, which is weird that my brain went 20 years earlier.
Right.
And the other two dads were looking at me like, oh, he's gone.
Oh.
He didn't know where he is. This is a mess.
It's like there's an aneurysm happening.
I'm sweating. I smell toast. I can't feel my left side. It was a disaster. And then she said,
How long is this? It
felt like 4 hours, but it was probably 3 minutes. And
Right.
she was like, not even 3 minutes. It was probably less than a minute. And she was like, Bill Austin Calhoun? And I was like, yes, Bill
That's
Austin.
that's a great save.
She was so sweet, and she was so calm, and she was young.
Yeah.
And so then they sort of got me back on track, and then at the end, it happened again in my scene right before, because I was, because then you're terrified. The next line you're going over, and I forgot my lines again, and I think finally I just said, my character's talking about he doesn't want to be in relationships.
Yeah.
So it sort of played off okay, but I don't remember what my lines
Oh,
were.
as if he was sort of just
So what I forgot, she was like, I was talking about relationships, and I was just like, couldn't think of the line. I just sort of shook my head. I was just like, I can't do it. And then my co-star just came in with her line, and that was it. But I was terrified for another couple of weeks. So I'd get to that part, and I'd get like anxiety.
Yeah.
Donny Osmond had that really. He had to get a therapist, and he had really bad anxiety attacks.
For a song or for just the lines?
Forgetting lines.
Oh, wow.
It's sort of common. They call it the white room.
What's that?
The white room? The white room. Like you're in a room and it's all white and you can't see anything. There's no clues and your brain is not telling you.
Is that what you were?
That was I was in the white room. Before I could figure out a way, and since then, if you flub a line, you figure out a way that sort of what you're saying. But this night is terrifying. It's so terrifying because there's 2,500 people staring at you.
Yeah.
Like what's happening?
Yeah. And who were you actually staring at? Were you just like? Do you stare at the audience?
No,
you don't.
I don't until the curtain call when they're dancing around.
Right.
Then I can make eye contact. But you don't use. It's called the fourth wall.
Yeah. And the lights are so bright that they're kind of.
Well, you can see the first several rows. You can
see
shouldn't do
phones.
that. I've actually been in shows, honestly, where actors have flirted from the stage. I just think, guys, come on. Stay in the show. Stay in the story.
That fourth wall has a window.
You can do that in the curtain call.
That you want to walk through and get a date.
And it's weirder now because everyone has phones. Like
Yeah.
I get messages at intermission. Because if
You're
look
allowed
at
to
your
have
name,
your phone backstage.
Oh yeah. Oh, this generation, these kids, as soon as they get off stage, they go to their phone. Yeah.
Really?
And by these kids, I mean me.
What could they be? Just scrolling?
The crew, even this crew, everyone's
crazy.
because they've just got time
Actually,
to kill.
You're right. In production, it is pretty much that way.
You just
in your off time. So there's this phase in your career where you're part of the Village People, and we were all so excited. And I didn't realize that you had done this for 10 years. So how did this come about?
So I was doing a play off Broadway that was a hit called Murder Ballad. It had gotten great reviews. We'd gotten moved for an open-ended run. And I got a call from the manager of the Village People saying, I saw you in Hands on a Hard Body, which is the last Broadway show. Because I'm Southern, I've done a lot of Southern parts and cowboys, and there was a lot of cowboy imagery out there online already. And he said, we'd love to see you for the cowboy. He's retiring after 37 years. And I didn't know they were still together. I was not interested. And I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm just not available. He's like, oh, okay, well.
And it wasn't quite our music in the 90s. Like, it was
No,
it was
not
already
really.
getting played at weddings and, just like, it wasn't what we did house music and things like that.
I remembered it in high school, like
Yes,
in junior high,
absolutely.
actually. In junior
Absolutely.
high. I remember I actually went to their concert in Birmingham, Alabama with my girlfriend, a double date.
Yeah.
Clearly, we were clueless. But I do remember there was a lot of men in the audience and they were wearing like scarves, like
Yeah.
Freddie from Scooby-Doo. And we were like, what's with the scarves? I guess it was a gay fashion thing in Birmingham. I don't know. But, so I said, no, I'm not available. And then 3 days later, my play got closing notice. And we were like, what? And I was, I picked up my phone. Boop, beep, boop, boop, boop. Hey, is that cowboy thing still open?
Is it that
And it
jungle?
was.
Like, you have to be on it, right? You have to be like, oh, God, let me...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is why when you're in a show, you're still auditioning for other shows.
Yes.
You never stop because you don't know when that show's going to end. So I called him back and I went to like the same place they have Broadway auditions. And there was like cowboys sitting in there waiting to go in and audition.
Did you wear a cowboy outfit?
I don't think I wore a cowboy hat. I don't think I did.
Were all those other
I'm
candidates?
not sure I actually had a cowboy hat. Then.
Were all those candidates calls for people to come in?
Yeah, they were
were?
auditioning for
Okay.
the cowboy.
Is the same look as you?
No, I had cowboy boots because I
I
had
can't
really
remember the
nice cowboy
cowboy.
boots.
He had a mustache?
He
The
did
original?
He did have a mustache, but
Dark
that was
hair.
back then.
Yeah.
I think the guy that I replaced did not have a mustache. And so I came in and I sang, and there was 4 originals still in the band. And
Wow.
I think I sang an Elton John song, and then I gave me a combination of dance, which was super easy compared to what I've been doing. And
Right.
they called me that night and said, "Yeah, we'd love to work with you." And I was like, okay, and I called my lawyers. I just need an out, so
Right.
I can do it until I get another Broadway show. You know, it was an interim job.
And is that a possibility?
Yeah, you can get. I got a 4-week out. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
so I
great.
could just tell them. And so then they didn't want to give it to me. But obviously, it doesn't make sense for them to have that. But
Were you the
said
most
yes.
experienced? Well, obviously, you were the most experienced person on Broadway.
Yeah.
Because of the 4
Yeah,
originals.
And
right?
so I did it, and I just got on the road with them, and it was so fun. Like, it was the complete opposite of theater. You don't have to win them over. They're coming because
They're
they
there
love
for
you.
you.
So you wear those costumes, and you sing those songs, and you do that choreography, and they're happy. And I got to see the world. It's way easier. Because
yeah,
you do one show a week, maybe 20. You know, they have 5 hits, so
Yeah.
we do the 5 hits.
I mean, I
25-minute
think
set.
you were doing. You were in Belgium when we were living there, and you were.
I saw you in Belgium. Yeah, that was
kind of crazy.
That was when I fell through the stage in Belgium.
Oh,
remember?
that's right.
We were going to eat for dinner, and I couldn't.
Yes.
I fell through 12 feet through the stage.
It was an opening that you're supposed to go down in, but
no, they had built a curved stage, and then they tried to fill the thing with square panels instead of getting one and sawing edges to fill those holes. They
Right.
thought, we'll just leave them open. They're on the sides. But 2 of the Village people stand on the side with Cowboy. And I ran on first. They hit me with the lights. We had no rehearsal, no warning about them at all.
Right.
And I'm waving, how's everybody doing? Just fell straight through the stage.
So what happened?
So I didn't know what had happened, right? Because I didn't
Yeah.
know there was a hole, and I sort of came to, and I look, and I could see light coming through, and I just climbed up the scaffolding and finished the show because I was on adrenaline, right? I didn't realize how much pain I was in. Then after it started, I was like, guys, my back's starting to hurt, and then I couldn't walk like an hour and a half later. It was great. There's actually a video somewhere where you can see me fall, then you see it's like a silent movie, and you can see the construction worker run over, look in the hole, and point at the hole, and point to the guys, and like Jim fell through the hole.
Originally, the Village People sort of has sort of this gay icon thing, but when it went to concert, you know, you did play Gay Pride and things like that, but
Yeah.
you were saying that the demographic that go to the show is quite different than you'd expect. Was that, you know?
You know, it's odd how I think people in the know
Right.
just thought it was a gay band, but you know, it was mainstream when they came out. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly.
I mean, it's still mainstream.
Yeah.
I mean, you cannot go to a football game or a bar mitzvah or a cruise
A
ship
wedding,
or
yeah.
anything without that song being played.
Yeah.
And but I thought, because I'm in the know, that they were going to do a lot of prides, but
Yeah.
the audience was very, very mainstream straight. You know, and actually. It's interesting because I would do like casinos, especially because we're staying in the casino and we perform. And then after the show, we'd walk up and women would be at the bar and they'd like, come and drink. Oh, you should come to our room, have a drink. And I would be like, they were overtly flirting with me. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm gay. And they'd be like, you're gay? And I would be like, I never would have guessed. And I said, I'm in the Village People. That should have been your
wearing
first guess.
chaps.
But oddly, people, they didn't. They still didn't put it together. It was
Right.
It was. I
So is it sort of this
I'm not sure they still put it together because now this version, which is very different from ours,
Yeah.
completely different, performs at Trump rallies and stuff.
Right,
You know,
right.
so clearly, I mean, remember when Rosie O'Donnell came out and everyone was
Yeah.
like, "Oh my God!"
Or
And
even
the rest
Ellen.
of us were like, "Where have you been?"
Yeah. Or
But-
Ellen.
Or Ellen, yeah.
Yeah, when it was just like
And
a total surprise. Liberace, apparently.
Right.
I mean, he's got a satin sequin cape and a limousine covered in like mirrors. And you're still thinking, what?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But I think it's because we have this. It's part of the media. They've shown us an idea of what gay is, and it's usually sort of
Yeah.
flamboyant or very funny and very campy, and that is not how I am, and just as a person. So it's because it was throwing them off, I guess. And all the Village People aren't gay, actually.
Yeah, yeah.
They weren't all gay, but just the band was so campy, you
Yeah.
know, and those songs were
and the
pretty
songs
gay.
are pretty gay.
Yeah.
So you did it for 10 years, and then, you know...
Not quite 10. I did it for about 7, 8.
Okay. All right. And then you decided to stop because it just completely changed into a different thing.
This version changed. They fired all of us, started
Yeah.
a new band with an ex-member, and
Yeah.
I had to go back to work. You know?
Right.
And because we tried to rebrand as the Kings of Disco, former members of Village People, but it's just hard to rebrand.
That's a long name.
And also to pay for 6 guys, even though they were in the band for 40 years.
Yeah.
If you have a brand name, the Village People, you can use. That's how you sell. And so
Right.
it was harder. For
And
us
they
to get
own
tickets.
that.
Yeah, and they
They-
own us, and we couldn't use it.
You couldn't use it.
So I had to go back to work, and then so I started auditioning again, and I forgot how to not be nervous because I hadn't auditioned in 10 years, and it was
What had
post-COVID.
changed? What was the biggest change in those auditions?
COVID changed everything. So everything became putting on tape.
Right.
But then when COVID sort of died down and I had to go back in the room and audition, you just have to sing in front of people, and I hadn't had to deal with that for 10 years, and I would get really nervous, and my throat would close, and I could, there were casting directors that I'd known, and I could see in their eyes like, oh, he's not good anymore. He used to be good, and I just wanted to get out of the room, right?
Right.
So my agent was like, we got to send you on a bunch of auditions and keep you going, and just for practice.
Well, during that time, do you have to practice your voice? Do you have to
I wasn't taking voice lessons, but I would definitely warm up certainly before auditions and stuff. At least at that point, I'd sort of had developed a technique, and I was still singing as the Village People. We actually sang a lot in really tight.
So you kind of
really tight harmonies that people don't even notice. So so they sent me to Mamma Mia, and I didn't want to go on tour. I was too old, and I didn't really want to do that show. I didn't think that was sort of my vibe, and so I auditioned. He said, well, just audition for the practice. So, of course, I wasn't nervous at all because I didn't want to do it. So I had a good audition. And then that old actor thing kicked in that you have, like, I don't want the job, but I want them to want me. Right? Yeah, exactly. So I went to the callback for that. And then I got a final callback. And I said, I'm not going on tour. I shouldn't take this because I don't want to burn a bridge with these casting directors by stringing them along. And he said, well, just see what they have to offer. And I had gone through a lot of my my savings during COVID. And so when I booked it, I just thought, you know what? Put on your big boy pants, go to work, make some money, and restore all the money you take.
But during COVID, you also, I think, and we've talked about this with other guests, about how they manage or navigate through social media. Do you remember the first time that you said, you know what, I'm going to open an account, or did you always have a social media presence?
Facebook had sort of already come out, and also
you were done with MySpace.
Yeah, my MySpace page closed, and I wasn't even on the MySpace thing, but I did have a Facebook account, and so I was posting it just because all our friends were doing it, and then Instagram came out. And I'd done this web series called Daddy Hunt that sort of blew up internationally, like huge.
Which is part of a dating app.
It was part of a dating app, dating quotation marks, but dating app.
Exactly.
I mean, technically, it
is. We were so excited to see you in these little snippets because it was a series. Yeah. How long were
it was based on. It was a smart idea because it actually was a dating app. I should say that it is a dating app, but it's a dating app for older people who like younger people, or vice versa. And so most of those ads are very, sexy guy in a locker room or something. Yeah. And they thought outside of the box, and they decided to do. There were these Taster's Choice ads. I don't know if they remember. And they were like a serial, like the story each commercial would carry the story forward.
Right.
So they decided to do that, and it was sort of like a little sweet romantic story between this younger guy, and it went crazy. It blew up. It got picked up by every news organization. It's in 7 languages. There's like 75 million views. It's crazy. 3 seasons. And it did great. Right. So I started getting a lot of followers on my Instagram, and that's sort of how it happened. So at first I was like, "Wow, this is crazy," and then I stared getting free stuff. This is cool. And then I started asking me we'll pay you if you'll post our stuff.
Here's a case of Geritol.
Well, it is funny. I did get a lot of those older guy for your bones, take this supplement, or supplements for older people to stay in shape, or gardening tools,
calcium cream,
gardening tools.
Then that went into more of the social media where it's just like you have all these fans, and then as influencers happen, it grows and grows and grows and grows.
Right.
And then you have these collaborations, which is what's happening in today's realm of social media. We had talked, you and I, about I had tried following your account through A Life Creative, and I told you this morning, it's just like there were 6 fake accounts with Jim Newman. And you've told me this before, that it is a constant kind of battle. And it comes with the notoriety, and comes with fame, and comes with the images of you out there. How did you, first of all, tell us what the real account name is.
Well, the real account now, the account now is Jim Newman Keep Moving, with an N at the end, not a G. Okay. Jim Newman Keep Moving. That's Instagram.
There are probably the 6 that I had were derivatives of that.
Verified. I think mine's the only one that's verified with a blue check mark. But before that, it was Jim Newman NYC, and that's the one I've been using forever. That was my brand, and that was how I was getting agents knew that to give me collaborations, and then I started becoming used for romance scams for women. And what would happen was they would take my media and they would use it to get women to fall in love with him and then ask for money.
Is it the same storyline? Like,
there are a few that run through. One is work on an oil rig is a big one, because that way
these women don't know that you're an actor.
They don't know who I am. They tell them they're an engineer working on an oil rig. Okay. They say oil rig because it's harder to get in touch with them, and they can't get in touch with their bank because they're stuck out in sea for 3 months. That's why they choose that. Sometimes they use military too. And, you know, sometimes they use my name and my face.
Never jail.
But sometimes it's just a random name,
right.
you know. And, you know, they use words like dear, which no one says in real life. How are you, dear?
Yeah.
That's a big clue. But
really?
Also look for engineer. If they're an engineer or a military doctor, 100% a scam. Right. If they ask for money, it's a scam. But
some people fall prey to it, and they sort of just like, and then they're just basically stealing your images from your social media and using them to sort of, and you were even saying that there's deep fakes of you just talking.
Yeah, now with AI, it's worse. They can use my voice and take a video that I posted and reanimate the mouth to make it sound like, hey Lois, I'm here on the oil rig on a break. I'm just saying, hey, I do a funny dance for you what happened was that started happening, and then these poor women who, and I get it, everyone's just is separate and everyone's feel connected, everyone's isolated, and they teach them, you know, wait 3 weeks before you say I'm getting feelings for you, wait, you know, 2 months before you
like
say
a script.
A lot of them are also widowed because
right.
they know that preys on like the tenderness
That's
of a
horrible.
woman, and they have kids and they're trying to raise them by themselves. My son needs a kidney operation. Could you send $3,000 in iTunes cards? You know, which is also if someone's asking you for iTunes
like
cards,
red flag,
huge red flag. But I think what happens is that it feels so good to be in love if you're isolated. So I understand how it's happening. So
and
what
how
happened
many times you have to explain this?
A lot. I would get not only messages from women crying, you know, who'd gotten all made up, saying, I found the real you, but I was still in love. And I'd get messages from their kids saying, my mom is mortgaging her house. I don't know what to do. Would you call her? Would you? But they are so deep in the fantasy that they believe everyone else is a lie except the person they're talking to.
The famous one is like Liam Neeson, right? He has like... Apparently,
I mean, he's so famous.
He's going to come and visit you, and I know
he's going to marry you.
He's going to marry. He's literally going to marry you.
So it was COVID. I was shut down. My only side hustle was this influencer stuff. And then what happens is a lot of times the women eventually wake up and realize it's not real. They image search, they find my actual profile, and they're mad at my face, so they take their anger out on me and report me.
So everything is being reported.
So they shut down my Instagram, and I had no income, no side income, no side hustle. So my niece said, get on TikTok. And I was like, that's for young kids. I'm not. So I posted a couple of things. They didn't work. But they have this dance duet, you know, obviously dance. And they were like these young, sexy guys doing dance. I was like, I can do that. So I would do it.
Was it old guns?
So I would young guns. But young gun battles, yeah. So I would do these battles with these guys. And women, like 40 to 80, just blew me up. Because they were looking at these young guys like, one of us, you know, and like, we can still be sexy at 60. And you start to realize how much ageism has affected our psyche and how pissed off we all are because we're not allowed to be sexy over 40, right? So I just sort of leaned into that because that's what I was already doing and saying it's okay. And I'll take my shirt off at freaking 55 years old. And these women blew me up, and I had like almost 1 million followers on that. So then it became a big side hustle. Then I started getting agents who were contacting me, you know, influencer
Say, would
agents.
you wear this or whatever?
We'd like to do a collaboration with you. And so that has since been my side hustle. So I've had to learn, you know, as an old person, how to learn social media and how to edit a video and how to post it and how to keep the algorithm going and how to keep it, because a lot of it's about interaction.
It's a lot of work.
But what's interesting is it changed my fan base from that gay series, which was like mostly almost gay men. Now it's women 40 to 80 are more of my fan base than the gay men.
Right.
You know?
Wow.
And which is interesting to tie back to when I came out, and it's going to hurt my career. I learned that the idea, it's so male sexist to think a woman can't enjoy a man on stage being sexy, even if he's gay.
Right.
It's so short-minded that they're going to ruin their fantasy. And for some it might, but most women are like, I know I'm not going to marry you. I don't care.
It's
if you're
called
sexy, you're
acting.
sexy. And also they don't care. You know, look who the sexiest man alive is. You know,
exactly.
They know that women are way smarter than we've ever given them credit for.
We're talking about Jonathan Bailey, obviously.
Jonathan Bailey, So and I learned that during the experiment. I was like, and I've had women say to me, they're like, please, you're really like selling me short. I know that you're gay. I don't care. I think your videos are fun to watch, and that's why I follow you. So don't act like I'm trying to, you know.
So and in between all this, you do there are these television spots that we love seeing you in. You were in Succession. It's always a thrill to see someone on a show, and that line that you say, and you probably remember every single line that you have.
Yeah. Succession is a good example of, and it's something I learned about the self tapes we were talking before.
Yes.
They tell you what the story is.
Yeah.
But I was in Fire Island.
Yeah.
And I only had summer clothes, and I got a call from an agent saying, it's a formal party, and I didn't watch the show, so you're Jerry's date to this formal business party.
Right.
I thought Jerry was a guy.
Yeah.
So I thought I was playing a gay character, and I only had shorts and T-shirts, and I didn't have a screen behind me, so I just set up a camera literally on a lamp.
Right.
And I did this improv thing about, Jerry never tells me where we're going. I'm so embarrassed. I'm wearing these stupid shorts. But Jerry, and then I booked it, and then I got there, and they're like, no, Jerry's a woman. You're her straight date to party. But that's how I booked that show.
You also said
don't overthink those auditions.
And you also said television, the energy by which, in a theater, you are projecting your lines. And then all of a sudden the television is just like real talk and sort of just
and Succession is unique in that they use film. Most people use video, which you can... Film is expensive and only has 10 minutes, and they do those long takes, and this was a very stressful long take, and I had 3 lines or whatever, and then I was supposed to go to a bar and get a drink, and then Kieran Culkin and what's the woman who plays Jerry? Cameron. Smith Cameron, where it had a scene.
Yeah.
Well, one take I go to the bar, and then the camera stays on me to go to the bar, and I'm like, okay, so just stay in character and order a couple of drinks, and then Kieran walks over. And he starts having a scene with me. And they didn't tell me. Completely improv. Completely. Like, they didn't even tell me I was going to do that or that it might happen. And so I'm standing there, and Kieran's like, so you're Jerry's new boyfriend. I was like, well, we're dating. We haven't said boyfriends yet. And he goes, well, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm a lawyer. And he was like, ugh. And I was like, but that's not my passion. He's like, oh, what's your passion? And I was like,
Broadway!
No, I said it was in that character. I was like, no, I'm an artist. And he was like, oh, really? What's your medium? And I said, ceramics. And he was like, ceramics? I was like, yeah, I'm making like puppies, but I put them in indigenous clothing, so it says something. It's not just commercial.
So you just kept
and
going.
I didn't even know I had that skill.
Was he cracking up?
Then he cracked up. Yeah, after that he cracked up. So we did a couple of more takes of that, but they didn't even tell me.
Wow.
Like, they didn't say, you might improv.
Yeah.
So I just walked to the bar, and the camera was on me, so I was like, stay in the moment. And then he came over. I was like, oh, damn it, what am I going to do? But I think if I'd known, I probably would have been more nervous. And since I didn't, I just started making up stuff. And he loved it. So I hung out with Kieran and them the whole week I was on the set.
That's great.
Yeah, it was fun.
So today, you're in Mamma Mia. You're in a big show on Broadway. And you were in the traveling show.
Right.
Right. And then it came to New York. Does that often happen?
Almost never.
Never.
And in fact, I'm the oldest member of the cast and had done a bunch of shows on Broadway. And when the rumors started to spread, because we were selling out everywhere.
And you sort of say to yourself, oh, it'll be another cast.
Yeah, they were saying, I was like, guys, they're not going to bring us to Broadway. First of all, tours don't come into Broadway. And if they do, they'll recast it. They're not going to, know. But
you were the Debbie Downer of the cast.
I was just trying
to be realistic.
Happen. Yeah, no, guys, don't. And they brought the cast and gave everybody an offer, and we had 25 Broadway debuts opening night, which
25
was so
Broadway
beautiful.
debuts.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That is amazing,
and it's doing great. We're selling out. So
yeah. No, what does it feel like to be in? It's a really happy show.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the original one opened right after 9/11. So I think it's sort of a similar vibe where people want escapism, they want joy and escapism, and Mamma Mia is definitely joy.
Yeah.
And it's oddly a family show. Even though the subject matter is about a woman who has unprotected sex with 3 guys in a month and doesn't know who the kids are. But it's very wholesome in that, and in a way, it's very feminist because they don't have any shaming for this woman at all. It's really just what happened and how she was born, and it's a very, very happy, joyful show, and it's a joy on stage every night at the end when the audience is standing up screaming to give that. I do not take it for granted. I can feel that is a lucky job.
What do you think the next chapter is for you when it comes to your career?
It's interesting.
You'll just keep going, like you.
Yeah, I'll retire, which means I can. For an actor to retire, it just means I don't have to take a job unless I want to do it.
Right. And a lot of your peers have sort of aged out or they've stopped.
Most of them.
Really?
Almost all of them. Yeah. Most of the people that were in it. I was just talking to Cheyenne, Cheyenne Jackson.
Yeah.
And we were just talking, we're still doing it. And not many people of us are still doing it because he was sort of he's a little bit younger. I think he's like 50. But, most people, it's just a tough life. And also you want kids and a family, and it's really hard to raise kids. And like when we were on tour, the guy playing Harry, they had a 3-year-old, and his wife was on tour with Wicked, and they were like sitters in each town, flying to each. I mean, it's a nightmare to try to raise kids.
We've talked about this before. In production, film and video is such a different animal. When you're younger, it's easier.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go away for 3 months. Who cares? I can leave my apartment, get a sublet. As you get older, you're just like, I like my stuff.
I know, and also just
I don't want
like the dressing rooms are on the 4th floor. When we got to the theater, I was like, I am not walking up and down those stairs for every costume change. You got to put me downstairs, not to be a diva or anything, but I'm not doing that. And they did; they were cool about it. So I'm sitting downstairs with the ensemble guys.
We'd like to ask our guest this question, and what do you think? Several questions actually, but what is the best advice that someone's ever given you?
I don't know if this is advice that I was given, but it is definitely advice that I learned and I have given out. And that was, go for it. Because the problem is you can live with failure. In fact, you're going to have a lot of failures in life. But regret is a really tough thing to live with. And I've had friends that I wanted to try it and didn't try it, and they see what has happened in my life and they didn't go for it, so they have this regret that still sort of eats away at them, because it's okay if it doesn't work out. There's a million other things you can do. And I think I moved to New York knowing I had to give it a shot. In fact, that's what I told my parents, because of course they were terrified that they were going to be sending me money my whole life. And I was like, just let me try it, and if it doesn't work out, I'll go be a teacher. I don't know, I'll do. And I think that I might not make it. Put that out of your head. Just go for it. And then if it doesn't work out, it didn't work out. I'll go plan B,
Yeah.
Because I think that fear holds a lot of people back from what they want to do. Just thinking that's so impossible. Give it a shot.
Yeah. What do you have to lose?
Yeah. And regret is way worse than not making it.
Yeah. Jim, I could talk to you forever, as usual. We always laugh, but I wanted to thank you for being on the show. You are our first guest in the performing arts, which
I am? That's exciting.
I absolutely love.
Yeah.
And you sort of gave us a great insight on Broadway, or just being a working actor and having longevity to do it. So thank you.
No, you're my friend, so this is super easy.
If you want to learn more about our guest today, find links and show notes, visit our website, www.alifecreativepod.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider following or subscribing, commenting, and giving us a like on whichever platform you're listening on. It really helps us grow our audience. Our producer is Chris Gangas. Our theme music was composed by Pierce McIntyre, and a special thanks to all the amazing people at East 10th House Studio.